always do, let's meet our screenwriter. And this one is one of the legends, Aaron Sorkin. He's 64 years old. He's a screenwriter, a playwright, a producer, now a director. You know about that. He's from New York, a New York guy through and through, youngest of 3 children. One of his siblings is a lawyer. The other is involved in the film industry somehow. I can't remember. And his mom was a teacher. His dad was a lawyer. He went to Syracuse in the 80s and he majored in theater, as a lot of our screenwriters do. He's fascinated in politics and history and sports, specifically baseball, my kind of guy. He's no longer married and he has a daughter, Roxy, who's 25 and also a filmmaker. So the family business. Sorkin's one of these screenwriters where I can't really tell you a whole lot about him that you don't already know. He's sort of like a Stephen King in the literary world. Everyone who cares knows quite a bit about him. One thing that he does that's sort of unique nowadays, is sort of old school, is he writes out the screenplay as much as possible by hand before he ever gets to the computer. Uses legal pads, spirals, all that stuff. And it goes all the way back to the beginning, and we'll talk about that in a second. He's an intense writer. He's a blue-collar, punch-in, punch-out, everyday type of guy. Hours and hours of writing when he's on a project. Known for his rapid-fire dialogue. Characters talk over each other constantly. They finish each other's sentences. They cross-talk, multiple conversations going on at once. That's on high display in this screenplay as well as pretty much everything else he's written. Think The West Wing. And you can think The West Wing because he wrote The West Wing. Or at least he was the creator and the showrunner for the first 4 seasons, I think. And then he stayed on board as a producer. He's known for his walk and talk scenes, a lot of one-ers where he's following people, picking up bits and pieces of conversations. Although, to be fair, there's not a whole lot of that in this screenplay because of the characters being anchored in these depositions where they're across the table from each other. But you can still feel the pace where the dialogue is going in different directions all over, just beep, 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 like, you know, rapid fire stormtroopers. He's known for tackling moral, political, social themes that are basically character driven. If you break down his full filmography and televisionography, I don't even think that's a word, you would see that he is interested in some of the same themes as all writers have themes that show up over and over again in their particular work. His are power structure, the burden of leadership, the cost of being a genius, ambition, and integrity. And when you mix all that together, you can come up with some really interesting stories. All right, so how did he get started as a screenwriter? So it's the late 80s, and he's in his mid-20s, working as a bartender at a pretty fancy little restaurant somewhere in Manhattan. He gets a phone call. This is pre-cell phone, so it's tethered somewhere, and he's pouring a drink, talking on the phone. This is how I envision it, right? And it's his sister. And she's telling him about something she's going through personally. She is a JAG lawyer. She's defending Marines who are accused of killing other Marines in Guantanamo. Interesting story, right? Well, this sparks an idea. And he starts thinking about a story, a play. And he writes it down on napkins, cocktail napkins, pieces of scrap paper. This is the legend anyway. And so he's working night after night. Anytime he has a few seconds, he's scribbling things on pieces of paper. Maybe he's going home at the end of the night and compiling it into one of his famous yellow legal pads. But either way, in the end, he comes up with a play called A Few Good Men. Somehow this play ends up on Broadway and explodes. And it is one of the most seen plays down there for quite a while. 500 performances overall on Broadway. So this makes Aaron Sorkin a respected playwright, and it gained him Hollywood representation on the film side. And his first task as a writer for Hollywood was to adapt this famous play that everybody was going to see in New York. And that's how we're all gifted the 1992 film A Few Good Men, starring Jack Nicklaus, Tom Cruise, and Demi Moore. Of course, that launched his career in Hollywood for sure, and he followed it up quickly with another film that he co-wrote, this time with Scott Frank. This was 1993, and it was Malice, a medical thriller starring Alec Baldwin, Nicole Kidman, Bill Pullman. 2 years later, back by himself as a writer, he wrote The American President, a romantic comedy drama starring Michael Douglas, Annette Bening. This one was directed by Rob Reiner, so some big hitters for sure, not that the other ones weren't. Then he got busy with television, and his first project in 1998 was to create a television show called Sports Night. And if you think back to 1998, this was the height of SportsCenter, and everyone was interested to see how that could translate to TV or film. And it was a great show, but I don't think it had enough viewers, probably female viewers at the time, although women love sports. I loved the show. I do remember it being very locker roomy though. And then that led to the 1999 project of being the creator and showrunner for The West Wing, one of the most beloved TV shows of the late 90s and early 2000s. And this really showed off Sorkin's style. Almost every episode was full of walk and talk, one-ers, back and forth, multiple conversations, rapid speech, everyone talking over everyone else. Some of his characters had the same voice, but no one cared because it was so interesting, so intelligent, and the storylines were so tight. A very satisfying show. Not going to go into what all went down there, but he was running the show for 4 years and did, like I said earlier, stay on as a producer. And then he got back to the movies. In 2007, he wrote Charlie Wilson's War, which is an outstanding movie. And then followed that up in 2010 with The Social Network, which is the screenplay we're going to be breaking down today. Then he followed that up in 2011 with Moneyball, another great film and an outstanding screenplay. Maybe we'll break that one down one day. He had a co-writer on that one. That's based on the Michael Lewis book, Moneyball. Then back to TV for a few years. He did Newsroom, which was sort of a take between the Sports Night and the West Wing combined, and some brilliant acting in that show. Back to the big screen in 2015 with Steve Jobs, which if you remember at this time, there were multiple Steve Jobs films coming out. This one was the winner of the group. He won another Golden Globe for his screenplay. And then in 2017, he wrote and directed, this was his directorial debut, Molly's Game. That's a biopic about Molly Bloom. Then he did it again in 2020 with The Trial of the Chicago 7. He wrote and directed that one, which he also won another Golden Globe for. And just announced last week, the reason why we're breaking this film today, because we need to revisit it, because he is writing the sequel to The Social Network. Right now, the working title is The Social Network 2. I'm sure it'll be something different. But not only is he writing it, no Fincher this time. He's going to direct it. Some people are excited about that. If he has the whole project to himself, some people are like, whoa, wait a second. Part of the beauty of this film was the voice and the story of Sorkin and the camera and the structure on screen of Fincher. But we'll see how it turns out. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a huge movie, you can imagine. And then also, he's in talks to possibly write another biopic, this time Lyndon B. Johnson. So we'll see about that. Busy guy. So how did The Social Network all come about?